Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be continuing to look at the cut content from the first episode of the Overlord anime and resuming from just as Ainz enters the throne room. One rather significant change that occurs between the light novel and the anime is when we first meet Albedo. In the anime, Albedo is holding nothing in her hands, while in the light novel she is holding the world-class item Gununga Gap. This item is named after the Norse primordial void from which all of reality came. Naturally, Albedo shouldn't have been carrying a world-class item, and the reason she was is because her creator Tabula Smaragdina had given it to her in the final moments before the server shut down. The next thing we learn is that NPCs in Yggdrasil couldn't follow complex phrases, and instead required set commands. Before climbing the final set of steps before the throne, Ainz initially told the Pleiades that's far enough, and winced when he could still hear footsteps behind him. Ainz had forgotten the need for specific catchphrases as he hadn't interacted with NPCs in so long. Most of his time in Yggdrasil was spent treasure hunting and raising funds for the upkeep of the tomb. Ainz never teamed up with other players and stealthily avoided any dangerous areas that the guild had once been able to take on, but he could no longer as he was on his own. Ainz just threw money into the treasury and logged out, so he never had any need to interact with NPCs. The next difference is when Ainz changed Albedo's character bio. He figured it would be okay to use the guild privileges he had ignored in the past, but ultimately rather flimsily justified it with, if a guild member makes an error, it should be corrected. In the light novel and anime, the problematic line in Albedo's character profile is that Albedo is also a bitch, although in the fan translation, it instead says that Albedo is a slut. Ainz considered deleting his amendment to the bio, but as it had the same number of words as the original, he decided to leave it. Just as the servers were shutting down, we learn more about Momonga and his personal life. Ainz reveals that despite the game being free to play, he had spent a third of his monthly salary on microtransactions. This wasn't because he was making a lot of money, but because he had no other hobbies. Ainz once got a bonus from work at the same time that a new lottery had come out in the game, and he spent so much trying to get that item, he blew through his entire bonus. While at the same time, another guild member, Yasmaiko, got the same rare item for the price of a lunch out. This caused Ainz much despair. As one of the conditions to be in the guild Untitled was that you had to be a contributing member to society, most people in the guild were spenders, although Ainz was not only among the top spenders in the guild, but in the entire game server. Things then play out as in the anime, right up until Ainz talks to Albedo about the GM call function. Momonga was caught off guard by the fact he was having a real conversation with Albedo, and wanted to see if all NPCs were affected. In order to test this, Ainz first instructs Sebas and the Pleiades to come to the foot of the throne. This is to see if they can now understand and execute complex instructions that didn't involve NPC commands. It is only after this point that Ainz notices Albedo's not only conversing, but her lips are also moving, and confirms that his own mouth also moved. It is also at this point Sebas receives his instructions to explore the surroundings of the Great Tomb of Nazarick within a half-mile radius. In addition to the order being given in the anime, Sebas is also ordered to negotiate with any intelligent life, and bring them into the tomb on amicable terms if possible. Sebas was also ordered to give the intelligent life practically anything they wanted in return for coming back to the tomb, and to avoid combat at all costs. This sounds ridiculous in hindsight, but given Ainz didn't know anything about the world at the time, his cautiousness makes a lot more sense. In addition to testing Sebas' ability to follow complex commands, this also served to test another restriction of Yggdrasil. In the game world, NPCs couldn't leave the guild base, so if Sebas were to successfully complete the task, it meant NPCs could now freely come and go from the tomb. Sebas was also ordered to take a member of the Pleiades with him in the event they were attacked. This is so the Pleiades member could be sent back and any information gathered was not lost. The rest of the Pleiades were ordered to guard the 9th floor and repel any intruders. From here, Ainz dropped the staff of Untitled and saw it retained its in-game physics. The next thing Ainz wanted to test was magic, as if he was unable to use any, it would seriously hinder his ability to gather information as well as his combat strength. He considered using the throne room as a testing ground, but didn't want to break its tranquility, which is why Ainz would shortly head to the 6th floor. The subject of loyalties and whether loyalties could change also played on Momonga's mind at this point. In order to maintain loyalty, he started thinking about giving rewards and if he had the right to touch the vault in order to do so. This explains a lot of the actions we see from Ainz throughout episode 2, from asking what each guardian thought of him to rewarding Mare's hard work. Ainz also considered ruling through the overwhelming power given to him by the staff of Ainz. The scene where Ainz touches Albedo is also slightly different in the light novel. After calling Albedo over, Albedo is still holding Gununga Gap. Ainz then reaches out and grabs Albedo's hand, but when looking at Albedo's face when doing so, Ainz perceives the expression of pain on her face and so retracts his hand. At this point, Ainz still has negative touch enabled, which deals damage through touch alone. As friendly fire was off in Yggdrasil, Ainz never had any reason to turn it off. This then caused Ainz to contemplate whether friendly fire had been enabled, before apologising for forgetting to turn off negative touch. Albedo responds by saying that the level of damage caused by the skill wasn't even enough to actually damage her, and how she would suffer any amount of agony for his sake. It is during this contemplation, Ainz realises that using his Overlord's powers was as natural to him as breathing. After confirming Albedo had a pulse, he checked his own wrist and discovered that he did not, but he wasn't exactly surprised due to him being an undead. Although it's Ainz's actions regarding Albedo's chest that further confirmed he wasn't in Yggdrasil, as such actions would have clearly violated the game's PG-13 policies. The reason for Yggdrasil's strict 13+ content policies was due to the fact that if the game's logs of such activities were ever made public, the game's operators would find themselves afoul of the adult entertainment business laws. As such, violators were severely punished, with their names being listed under a list of abusers on the game's website, and their accounts suspended. We are also told that the non-consensual playing of a DMMORPG was legally counted as kidnapping for ransom, and an inability to quit a game would be seen as forced confinement. Additionally, game logs have to be kept for up to a week by law. Furthermore, the sense of taste and smell are banned in fantasy worlds by cybertech laws to prevent the game world from feeling too real. There were even regulations surrounding the sense of touch so that the players wouldn't mistake the fantasy world for the real one and find themselves trapped in digital realities. To further ensure this, systems for eating and drinking only affected in-game stats. From here, Ainz tells Albedo to contact all floor guardians except Aura and Mare, as he would tell them himself when he arrives at the 6th floor. Immediately before heading to the 6th floor, Ainz ordered the golems in the Lemegaton to only take orders from him. He did this out of concern for an NPC uprising. Upon Momonga arriving on the 6th floor, we come to learn certain details that are skipped in the anime. The Colosseum on the 6th floor was built to the exact measurements of the Colosseum in Rome. Continual light was cast around the arena to ensure the whole arena is always visible. There are also golems in every seat which look like clods of dirt. The Colosseum is named the Ampitheatrum, and with the exception of the 1500 player raid on the tomb, all intruders have met their end in the Ampitheatrum. The members of Ainz would sit in the large VIP sitting area to watch any intruders perish. The seating area is 6 stories above the arena's ground and is the same one Aura descends from in the first episode. In addition to this, the sky above the 6th floor would change with the passage of time, and even had an accurately arcing sun that would rise and set. Aura and Mare died protecting the 6th floor in the previously mentioned 1500 player raid, and Ainz wonders if they are the same Aura and Mare that the guild created or just copies. Ainz really struggles with the idea that Aura and Mare could be different versions of the floor guardians created by Buka Buka Chugama, and considers asking them about their deaths. Ultimately, he decides that the experience could have been highly traumatic and decides it's best to let sleeping dogs lie. But it doesn't stop us from learning about Yggdrasil's revival systems. In Yggdrasil, when a player died, they lost 5 levels and dropped one of their equipped items. Spells such as Resurrection and Raise Dead could ease the level penalty, and there were cash shop items that let players off with just some lost experience. Alternatively, for NPCs, guilds could pay an amount of money proportionate to the NPC's level to be revived without any penalty. This allowed Shoutir to remain at level 100 after her fight with Ainz. Ultimately, this system ended being abused, however, as it allowed players to respec their characters, as experience was pretty easy to build up until the upper 90s, at which point losing a single level would be an extreme punishment. The reason experience was so easy to get for so long is so players weren't so terrified of losing levels and so wouldn't explore the new areas. And it's after this that Ainz first meets Aura and Mare, but I think we'll leave it here for this video, and address the initial meeting of all the Floor Guardians next time. As always, make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and a like or sub would be greatly appreciated. And as always, have an awesome day.